1-800.
The federal government announcing that the Justice Department and Coast Guard seized 45,000 pounds of cocaine with the value of more than $500 million bound for the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi announcing that bust in Port Everglades, Florida today. She says the Coast Guard used drones, aircraft, and ships to interdict the traffickers.
We believe two cartels, CJ&G and Sinaloa, were heavily tied to these shipments. This is a major blow to their financial operations and their efforts to distribute drugs throughout our country.
More than a dozen new sounds being added to the National Recording Registry at the Library of Congress to preserve the work of artists and more.
New entries to the National Recording Registry range from Elton John's 1973 album Goodbye Yellow Brick Road to Celine Dion's Titanic hit My Heart Will Go On. But it's not all music. Chuck Thompson's broadcast of Game 7 of the 1960 World Series, and even Microsoft's Windows 95 startup sound, all now a part of the Library of Congress. Mike Dubusky, ABC News.
Uber out with its latest lost and found index. The top 3 commonly left items: phones, keys, and wallets. The most forgetful city, according to the app, New York. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Do you hear that? Asthma triggers are everywhere, from dust mites, pet dander, and pollen, to smog and smoke. An asthma attack can strike anywhere, anytime. Be prepared with quick-acting Primatene Mist. Clinically proven to open airways quickly. It's the #1 FDA-approved asthma inhaler available over the counter. Primatene Mist. Breathe easy again. Use as directed.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
4:05 now at News Talk KVNU. I'm Will Theoret as we have a few clouds on this sunny Wednesday afternoon and above normal temperatures today and even warmer weather coming for tomorrow and Friday. We've got a full forecast for you coming up following the news. Well, friends and family in Saratoga Springs held a funeral for the boy and his mother who were shot in their home almost 2 weeks ago. Eli Painter, an 8-year-old, was found dead back on March 28th, while his mother, Jessica Lyman, a 44-year-old, was also critically injured but later died from her injuries. Now, nearly a week and a half after the shooting, police have not publicly identified a suspect, and they have not said exactly how the boy died or how Lyman was injured. A spokesperson for the Saratoga Springs Police Department said that officers are still conducting interviews and subpoenas right now and that the investigation is taking time. Meanwhile, the owner of a barbecue food truck is trying to track down the people who tried to set his food truck on fire in Murray. Kenneth Hunt said that someone tried using a road flare and some motor oil to burn down his truck, and he has no idea who or why. Now, surveillance video shows the black car driving down 4800 South in Murray and then making a U-turn and parking across the street. It also shows 2 people walk over to Hunt's food truck, apparently and attempting to set it on fire. Now, Hunt's truck is no stranger to flames as he spends about 8 to 12 hours a day smoking meat, but when he got to work Monday, he realized that it was his truck that almost got barbecued. Now, the Murray police were initially called out to the alleged arson attempt, but they have now turned over the investigation to the Murray Fire Arson Investigators. The fire marshal's office says that so far they have no additional information or leads. And a southern Utah woman is facing criminal charges after police said she never picked up her child from daycare. Jessica Louise Babin, a 36-year-old of southern Utah, was charged Monday in 5th District Court with child abandonment, a third-degree felony. Now, back on March 26th, Babin was supposed to pick up her 5-year-old child from daycare. Employees unsuccessfully attempted to contact Babin and by 7 o'clock notified the emergency contact listed for the child. Now, that emergency contact person told police she attempted until 10 o'clock to contact Babin but was unable to make any contact. Police eventually were called and went to Babin's apartment the next day. They found her with poor balance and slurred speech and signs of being impaired by drugs. Now, she allegedly told officers that the child had only been gone for about 20 minutes, when in fact, they had actually been out of the home for 24 hours. Well, a few clouds this afternoon, but temperatures have been in the mid-60s today and tonight. Looks like we'll drop into the high 30s and even warmer weather coming for Thursday and Friday. As tomorrow, temperatures expected to be around 74, then 77 on Friday. Sunny skies will continue through Friday night, and then a small chance we could see some shower activity on Saturday with cooler weather coming for the weekend, as by Sunday, it'll be around 53 degrees. And Mount Logan Laundry brings you our news and weather here at the top of the hour. It's right now the time where many people are pulling beds and quilts off their bedding. And before you put those quilts away, take them into Mount Logan Laundry and freshen them up. They are in Logan and Brigham City. Their 55 and 80-pound washers can save you time and money. It's Mount Logan Laundry, the cleanest spot in town. I'll have another check of local news at the bottom of the hour. KVNU News Time is now 4:07, and more of KVNU's For the People show with Jason Williams is coming up next.
Hi, I'm Wendy, co-founder of Bell Sculpt. I know what it's like to feel uncomfortable in your own skin, worrying about how you look, feeling drained, and just not like yourself. Hormone changes, pregnancy, or aging can lead to weight gain and challenges that aren't your fault. That's why I believe so strongly in what we do at Bell Sculpt. I've had a procedure myself, and it transformed more than just my shape. It boosted my energy, metabolism, and confidence. If you're ready to feel like yourself again, Bell Sculpt is here to help. Book your free consultation at bellsculpt.fm.
News Talk KVNU, 610 AM at 102.1 FM.
Did you get a landscape plan and now wonder what's next? You need Canyon Landscaping. They can build any plan into a signature landscape. Since 1999, their team has viewed educating clients as a crucial part of every project. This ensures customers get the best finished landscape for their specific site. No two sites are the same, so be sure to come to the experts with expertise and knowledge of delivering on any landscape plan. Call 752-3838 or go to canyonlandscaping.com. Canyon Landscaping. Look for the leaf.
Join us each week for music and the spoken word featuring the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square, the longest-running continuous weekly network broadcasting the world. Each episode features modern and traditional arrangements of spiritual, classical, and contemporary music, and a timely, inspiring message. Truly an uplifting program that will have you returning each week. Music and the spoken word with the Tabernacle Choir.
Sunday mornings at 8 and again in the afternoons at 6 on News Talk KVNU. KVNU's For the People with Jason Williams and Bill Walter.
And it is Utah known as the fraud capital of the world. Not because we have more people committing fraud, but because we have so many people falling for it.
Going beneath the headlines and connecting you to the newsmakers.
The radio is a great way to get the word out to a lot of people in an emergency. So we thank you for your help and being a partner with us.
For the People on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM, online at 610kvnu.com and on the KVNU mobile app.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It's a beautiful afternoon in Cache Valley, 66 degrees still at 4:11 in the afternoon. And I haven't spotlighted this for a while, but days getting longer. Sundown here in Cache Valley tonight, 8:01 p.m. So still a ways away from my favorite time of year, June, especially late June, with sunlight well into the evening, but 8:01 p.m., can't complain about that. It's the only time of year that I really struggle, and I'm not complaining about the having a radio show. It's been a lot of fun for 16, almost 17 years now, but it is difficult in the wintertime. I had to think of how to say that. It's difficult in the wintertime because for much of the winter, I come in as the sun is hanging low in the afternoon sky, and by the time I leave, it's pitch black outside, and yeah, just not my favorite time of year. But 8:01 p.m. sunset, I can deal with that, and 66 degrees. A quick note on snowpack and melt-off. Utah water managers and the Utah Department of Water Quality have a report. You can see this yourself at their website each and every day. They update this, but one of the concerns, so kind of a twofold concern for the entire state in that, half the state is I almost said underwater, and that's a horrible way to say that. Not underwater, the exact opposite of underwater. The lower half of the state, well below 80% of snowpack for what is a normal report in April, but so down to about 75-80%. Northern Utah, we're still sitting between 90-95%, so we've lost quite a bit, and that moisture hasn't really been replaced much, but we're still looking okay headed into the summer. The concern, of course, is heat dome sets in, drives all the storms around us and down to Texas instead. Texas gets flooded, we get nothing, and starting the dry months out with 90-95% of normal, of course, is going to put a crunch on us. But not a lot of panic out there that I'm seeing. As far as snowpack melting off, despite the warm temperatures, it hasn't melted off as quickly as some had worried. So as far as flooding concerns go, now, we're not out of the woods on this, of course. This weather in Utah can change at the drop of a hat, from temperatures to amount of precipitation and all of that. But the ramped up flood efforts we've seen in previous years, which oftentimes started in February, have not been necessary this year. Some cities do have sand pile and even sandbag reserves just in case. If we get an extremely warm spell and it melts that snowpack off fast, we still could be looking at flood concerns throughout Cache Valley and in the canyon rivers and more. But yeah, snowpack-wise, despite the warm temperatures, the Bear River region still sitting, depending on which report you look at. Local report says 92%, statewide report says 91%, and that has kind of gone up and down a few percentage points over the last few weeks. The Weber-Ogden area is still looking still looking better, actually, 98%. The Provo River area, 107% of normal, so still great there. Tooele, out there on the western side of Salt Lake County, at 107% of normal. The Uintas in general at about 90% of normal, and Duchesne County area 98% of normal. But as you go on down through the state, not looking great. Southwestern Utah, the St. George Cedar City area, back down after creeping up to about 35, almost 40% of normal there for a few weeks in early March. They are back down here in early April to southwestern Utah, sitting at 25% of normal. Now, of course, southwestern Utah, it's less snowpack and more reservoir levels, but 25% of normal, and we have not entered the dry months yet. Those months that are traditionally dry, and, the monsoon season doesn't come along, if it does come along this summer, until August. So pretty serious concern about water in the southwestern part of the state. The Escalante region, central, southern border area, 6% of normal. I asked if this set a record, and they said no, but it was very close. So not a record for, water levels or snowpack, as we refer to it in general, even for the parts of the state where it isn't snow so much as reservoirs and lakes. But the Escalante area, central southern Utah, again, 6% of normal for this time of year. That is wild. With, again, the St. George, Cedar City, southwestern Utah corner, 25% of normal. So really, really stark comparison between the two. Again, here in the north, Bear River region, our area, including Bear Lake and the Box Elder County area, 91% of normal right now. Not bad. Not where we'd prefer to be, but not bad. And Weber-Ogden, 98. Provo, 107% of normal. And Tooele area out there in the mountains around the western side of Salt Lake County, 107% of normal. Uintas, 91% of normal. Again, all great stuff, but southern Utah, Escalante, the central southern Utah, central portion of the southern part of the state, 6% of normal. And southwestern Utah, Cedar City, St. George, again, 25% of normal. That is a water crisis in southwestern Utah, without a lot of options. One of the big plans over the last few years was the Lake Powell pipeline. This was mainly St. George and Washington County water managers beefing this idea up, the legislature trying to grease the wheels. This originally started being discussed at the federal level as far as environmental reviews and more in the Bush years. Obama didn't really do anything to slow it or speed it up. The first Trump administration, they tried to speed it up very quickly. And then, of course, the water situation erupted, and we all quickly learned collectively that our water estimates in the Colorado River had never really been accurate. There was never really that much water to divvy up between 7 states in the first place. And, of course, with water levels dipping during the worst part of the 21-22 drought years, that Lake Powell pipeline idea was probably deservedly torched or buried or drowned. Well, not drowned. There's no water to do it. But that idea is dead. Other ideas in southwestern Utah have included tapping into what is believed to be a untapped aquifer underground, which will buy them 10 to 20 years. But with population growth, that isn't going to cut it. And, so again, just not a lot of ideas for this situation. But the reality is we have a large population center in southwestern Utah that is expected to double in population over the next 20 years. And this is now the 7th year of the last 10 that they've been below 50% of normal for their water going into the dry months. And this year, worse than ever, 25% of normal. So State Leader is very concerned about this, but again, not a lot of options for them to really discuss. We'll see what happens. But I guess, sympathy for the southwestern and south central part of the state, but looking pretty good here in northern Utah. Again, even with the warm temperatures, the Bear River region, Box Elder, Cache, and Rich County, respectively, 91% of normal despite the warm temperatures. And going to get a little bit warmer this week. So I expect that to maybe dip down into the high 80s as far as a percent of normal. But there's your water outlook. Yesterday, CacheValleyDaily.com broke the news here in Cache Valley. We didn't get a chance to talk about it on the show, but a heartbreaking message from April Turner, mother of Deserae Turner, a local hero and an example of not giving up. Some sad news from the family, but ways that you can get involved to help them a little bit as this plays out. What the announcement was all about, right after this.
Your 401k is likely one of your most important assets, but it's only one part of a comprehensive retirement strategy. Edward Jones can help you understand how your retirement assets fit into your entire retirement picture, so you work toward your unique retirement goals. Contact one of our 11 offices for Edward Jones in Cache Valley, or go to edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Building a home is one of life's biggest investments. You want it done the right way, the honest way. Edson Builders has teamed up with Innovative Home Finishes, 2 of Cache Valley's best, to give you a better home building experience. No cookie cutter designs, no cutting corners, just exceptional homes built exactly the way you want. And right now, you may qualify for a $20,000 first-time home builder incentive. Call 232-2680. That's 232-2680, or visit edsonbuilders.com.
You've been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. You have to carefully monitor your health for the rest of your life. And you have an increased risk of developing cardiovascular disease.
Cut. Take 2. Action.
You've been diagnosed with a new purpose: to fight for the amazing life you made for yourself. To look that risk of heart disease square in the face and say, no, not me. You've been given a new opportunity to live. Get started at NoDiabetesByHeart.org.
on the next Handle on the Law.
Yeah, I want to know, is it okay if I shoot a raccoon with a bow and arrow?
Yeah, it's perfectly fine to shoot the raccoon with a bow and arrow. Now, whether it's legal or not, I have no idea. But I'm saying, yeah, go ahead and shoot the raccoon with a bow and arrow. I just want to be there when I see the raccoon get it with a bow. You have a problem with raccoons in your house?
No, but in my backyard, he killed my kitty cat.
Yeah, I'd shoot him. That's a shame. Yeah, raccoons are vicious.
Saturday afternoons from 1 to 4 on News Talk KVNU, the voice of Northern Utah.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. This is news that broke yesterday at CashValleyDaily.com. We got word of it here in the studio mid-show with guests in the studio. We didn't have a chance to talk about it, and just wanted to make sure everyone in Cache Valley knew, because there are ways you can help the family. But yesterday, April Turner, Deserae Turner's mother, went public with a pretty heartbreaking announcement and a link to a GoFundMe account. For those who don't know the story, well, the news was that Deserae Turner was recently taken to the emergency room after some unusual pain and shortness of breath, the mother's April's post said, and doctors soon discovered an infection. And April wrote, Des has fought a good fight for more than 8 years now. She is tired. She doesn't have it in her to fight another life or death battle. She's endured so much more than anyone should have had to endure. And the news was that they had placed Deserae Turner on hospice care and do not expect her to recover at this point. Deserae Turner, of course, back in 2017 was led by a pair of teenage boys to a canal in Smithfield where the boys, then 16 years old, and both of them involved with, in various ways, shooting Deserae in the back of the head and leaving her for dead, taking her belongings. Turner was discovered still alive but barely the next morning by a family friend who was part of a search team after Deserae didn't come home the night before. She underwent 63 days of intensive hospital treatment and was not expected to survive, but not only survived, but made a near full recovery. There were still challenges for her, a lot of things that had to be relearned, and she did, face some challenges long term that would probably never go away. The doctors told her at the time, and she's been for the past 8 years. The family said she's endured countless doctor's visits, therapies, 50 different surgical procedures, 16 of which were brain surgeries. And, but despite it all, Deserae Turner checked off a long list of accomplishments many people, including the doctors, told her she would likely never do. She graduated from high school. She served as a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, something that she said was a goal of hers from a very young age. She had she spent a lot of time with various nonprofits raising money for other great causes, but also raising awareness of many important causes, known for growing flowers to give away, thousands of them over the years. And she worked several hours a week at a job and got married. Yesterday, again, her mother, April, wrote that after the last diagnosis, quote, Des made the brave decision not to treat and to go on hospice. She has a firm belief there is life after death, and we will be together again. For those who are interested in helping in what the family says are Deserae's final days, they have set up a GoFundMe page. You can search for it or follow the link in the CacheValleyDaily.com story I've linked on our Facebook page, or find on the front page of CacheValleyDaily.com there from yesterday evening. And it's titled, the GoFundMe is titled Stand with Des, D-E-S, Stand with Des in Her Final Days. And here's just a bit from the message that April Turner, Deserae's mother, wrote. She on the GoFundMe page. She begins, I'm not sure where to start. the very beginning or the beginning of the end. It's so hard to put into words. The life of one of the most inspirational, amazing, beautiful, persistent people you've ever met is coming to a tragic end. She details, Des's history since being shot in the back of the head, February 2017. Both of the young men involved in that were sentenced to 15 years to life in prison, Coulter Peterson and Jason Decker. And Deserae, 14 years old at the time, again, was not expected to make a recovery. In the GoFundMe page description, April talks about her battle with, 50 different procedures, 16 of which were brain surgeries. And, she says, sadly, Des knew something was wrong recently. She means we couldn't see this. We could see something wasn't right ourselves. Her pain was worse than ever. Des was tired. She didn't feel good, but as always, she had the attitude she could be home feeling tired and in pain, or go to work and at least have a good distraction. That day after her 2-hour shift, Des had shortness of breath, which is unusual for her, so we took her to the emergency room. It was soon discovered that Des had a bilateral septic pulmonary emboli infection with blood clots, and April Turner, Deserae's mother, wraps up saying, Des has fought a good fight for more than 8 years now. She's tired, and she doesn't have it in her to fight another life or death battle. There are things worse than death. Quality of life is more important than quantity. Des made the very brave decision not to treat and to go on hospice. She has a firm belief there is life after death. Funds raised through this GoFundMe page will pay the last of Deserae's medical bills, the expected funeral expenses, and anything extra will help Deserae's husband and family afford some extra time off work for their own bereavement. Funeral arrangements have not been made yet, so they don't have any real costs or a goal to set on this. But April Turner thanked the Cache Valley community and everyone in Utah who supported Des over the years after this tragic incident in 2017, which now, 8 years later is still basically claiming her life. April Turner said, "Thank you to everyone who has helped over and over again to support our Des. She is amazing. She wants everyone to know she loves you all. And if things were different, she would stay." To date, this was set up yesterday, and this is so encouraging, but honestly, help still if you can. But to date, in just a little over 24 hours, almost $40,000, $38,356 raised. That is honestly amazing. So, again, just heartbreaking news over this young girl going through so much and zero of it, anything she asked for or even, put herself in a position to receive. An honest victim here. And, it was just heartbreaking to see this news out yesterday. I had to read it twice. I wasn't sure. Again, full story on this at CacheValleyDaily.com, including background on and reporting on the shooting in 2017, almost exactly 8 years ago, and the announcement again from Deserae Turner's mother that after a serious infection and blood clotting issue is discovered, that she's been placed on hospice and not expected to live long. So. Link to the GoFundMe page, which has raised, again, over $38,000 in just a 24-hour period of time. If you'd like to help more, as I said, the Turner family says the money will be used to pay off the medical bills, pay funeral expenses expected soon, and any extra funds will go to Deserae's husband and family to help them afford some extra time off work to mourn her loss. Link to the GoFundMe again in the CacheValleyDaily.com story. Deserae Turner, who survived gunshot to head 8 years ago, now on hospice care. An announcement made yesterday afternoon by Deserae's mother, April. Story and photos at cashvalleydaily.com, again, with a link to that GoFundMe page. And we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
Well, thank you, Jason. A 41-year-old man already convicted of assault and violating a protective order has been arrested and charged with abusing and choking a pregnant woman in Benson early Monday morning. James Harlan Henderson was booked April 7th into the Cache County Jail. Now, according to the affidavit of probable cause, Cache County Sheriff's deputies were dispatched to a trailer near 2600 West SR 30 on report of a domestic dispute. Now, the alleged victim claimed that Henderson had beat her up and choked her. The woman had a bloody swollen lip and red marks on her neck and face. Deputies learned that Henderson had allegedly become upset with the alleged victim after she refused to cuddle with him. He then reportedly dragged her around the trailer by her hair, grabbed her by the face, and hit her on the back of the head. Now, the woman claimed that Henderson later placed both hands around her throat and began restricting her airway. He then placed his knee across her throat, stating that he was going to kill her and their unborn child, the arrest affidavit detailed. Now, according to jail records, Henderson was booked on suspicion of aggravated kidnapping, a first-degree felony, and aggravated assault, a third-degree felony. Now, based on court records, Henderson was just released from jail after pleading guilty to violating a protective order amended to a Class A misdemeanor. Now, the plea deal had allowed for his release pending sentencing coming up May 12th. Now, in 2023, he was also sentenced to serve 364 days in jail after being convicted on similar assault charges. And after a high-profile visit to Utah and a meeting with state political leaders, the Environmental Protection Agency announced a rule change when it comes to air pollution regulations. Now, the EPA rescinded guidance governing international air pollution that drifted into Utah and became a factor in the state's attainment status. The rule change was announced following EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin's appearance at the University of Utah, where he appeared in an event along with Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Now, Zeldin said that Americans should not be harmed by other countries that do not have the same environmental standards that we have in the United States. Now, that was welcomed news for House Speaker Mike Schultz, a Republican from Hooper, who has pushed for the change with the Trump administration. Zeldin also said that the EPA is reevaluating previous findings that Utah was not in attainment for summer ozone pollution. And about everything went perfect for the Salt Lake Bees last night. A boisterous crowd lined up outside different entry points into the ballpark at America First Square, eager to check out the team's new ritzy ballpark. And as the national parks finished their folksy rendition of the national anthem, a KC-135 tanker plane from Hill Air Force Base streaked across the sky, and as fans enjoyed a beautiful evening of baseball. Now, the only problem was that there were so many milestones that happened in a row that the team couldn't catch up with documenting history. Bees outfielder Gustavo Campero had slapped the first hit inside the team's new stadium after shortstop Zach Neto had reached on a leadoff walk. And then, as the official was fumbling around looking for an authenticator for the first ball hit into play, J.D. Davis cranked the stadium's first home run, a grand slam, as the team's first five batters reached the base on their way towards a 13-10 win over the Reno Aces. Well, it's going to be another beautiful afternoon for sports and into tonight, as temperatures have been in the mid-60s today, and we'll see the sunny skies continuing through tomorrow and Friday, as temperatures overnight expected to drop into the high 30s. We'll hit about 74 for tomorrow, 77 coming for Friday, then a small chance of some showers with increasing clouds coming in for Saturday. And it's Bell Sculpt that brings you weather, helping to transform your body and boost your confidence with Bell Sculpt. Get more information at bell.fm. And I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News Update. Another check of local news coming up at the top of the hour.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. On the same day reciprocal tariffs went into effect, President Trump issuing a pause except for China on those reciprocal tariffs. ABC's Whit Johnson says markets rallied today, but a trade war still looms.
There's still some uncertainty about the end game here. This is a 90-day pause just on those reciprocal tariffs. We still have the 10% baseline tariffs. We're still talking about big tariffs on cars and car parts. And then, of course, China is the massive X factor here. You know, we slapped them with 104% tariffs. Now it's up to 125. They hit the United States with those reciprocal tariffs because of the retaliation there. So there's still a lot of questions about what's going to happen next.
The House expected to vote on the Republican budget blueprint resolution tonight, but House Speaker Mike Johnson may not have enough Republican support. He can only afford to lose 3 votes. Flooding remains a threat in parts of the South and Midwest after this week's storms. This is ABC News.
The bugs love the good weather. I'm guessing you have a bunch of those creepy crawlers waiting patiently to come into your cozy home. Let Logan Extermination take care of those unwanted pests with a monthly exterior spray. Now, for a limited time, they'll spray your home's exterior monthly from April to October for only $65 per month for a 2,000 square foot or less home. Call Logan Extermination before your home becomes enemy territory. Logan Extermination, 752-8450.
This is Cheryl, bringing you the daily financial market report on behalf of financial advisor Jeff Olson and Edward Jones. Equity markets rallied across the board this afternoon as President Trump announced a pause on the new tariff rates for 90 days. President Trump announced tariff rates on all countries would move lower to 10%, except for China, whose tariff rate would move higher to 125%. The administration also clarified that the pause would not apply to sector tariffs, which are currently in place for autos and steel and aluminum. Stock markets rallied 8% to 12% across major indexes, with the tech-heavy Nasdaq leading the way higher. Meanwhile, Treasury yields are also higher, although lower than recent peak levels. The 10-year Treasury yield has climbed to about 4.34% after reaching its low of the year of around 4% last week. The 10-year Treasury auction today was well received, supported by strong demand. In Edward Jones' view, the news on the tariff pause is a welcome de-escalation of the recent global trade tensions, while a 10% average rate, or perhaps higher given Chinese and sector tariffs, will still weigh on economic growth and inflation. This is a scenario, we believe, where economic and earnings growth can still be positive for the year. Today, U.S. equities closed higher. The Dow closed up 2,963 points at 40,608. The Nasdaq closed up 1,857 points at 17,125. The S&P 500 closed up 474 points at 5,457. And in the bond market, 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 4.3%, higher by 0.06 percentage points. This has been today's financial market report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and the financial advisor Jeff Olson, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice at 580 North Main in Logan. If you would like additional information, please contact our branch office at 435-787-8170. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
In our rural communities, EMS volunteers stand ready to help every day. Volunteers are ordinary people performing extraordinary acts. Many of these heroes lack access to essential health insurance for themselves and their families. It's time to give back. Utah has a new program that offers no-cost medical, dental, life, and long-term disability insurance to our rural EMS volunteers. Families may also be eligible for low-cost options. Become a licensed EMT, AEMT, or paramedic, and you and your family may be eligible. Visit utahcounties.org to learn more. That's utahcounties.org.
Cash Equipment in Hyde Park has been serving the farmers, ranchers, contractors, even homeowners for years. And now they've got a new name, Black Cliffs Equipment. Different name, but the same trusted team. Same top quality Kubota and Massey Ferguson tractors and equipment. And the same commitment to service to keep you moving forward. Whether you're plowing fields, hauling hay, or breaking ground on something big, Black Cliffs Equipment is here for you. Located in Hyde Park and online at blackcliffsequipment.com.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Coming up, a big announcement from USU, accreditation provisional announcement from the American Veterinary Medical Association Council means the veterinary school is getting underway. what that means for USU and more. Governor Cox has an update on his ongoing trade mission to Canada, trying to calm concerns over Utah investors and businesses who depend on Canadian trade and international tourism from Canada in the summer for various things economic. Concerned over the trade war and tariff back and forth, on again, off again, going on, coming out of the Trump administration. The governor and several other state leaders headed off to Canada to try and calm nerves, and an update on that coming up. Also, how the Cash Employment Training Center plans to use a significant donation from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from the giving machines that were placed here in Cache Valley throughout December. Big donation to the center, and they've got some big plans for it and some really important work they do here in Cache Valley. So that's all coming up. Right now, I'm just going to warn everybody. It's going to get a little History Channel here. So if that's your thing, great. If not, if there's something else you can do for the next 10 minutes, I understand. Don't change the station. Just, if you've got some mail to open or an email to respond to, now's the time. If History Channel stuff isn't your thing. Next year, there's a big celebration planned, 100th year anniversary of Route 66. This is, I think, one of the most interesting stories in domestic history in the United States. The development of, this took so long, and started in 1926 with the U.S. Bureau of Public Roads, which was a thing then, created the first federal highway system, which included designation of a network of existing roads, widening them and paving them, connecting Chicago to Santa Monica, California. And that, after it continued to expand and be further developed, became known as Route 66. So next year, again, a big 100th year celebration planned through multiple states in the American West. And everything was kind of put up in the air recently by a weather event that damaged portions of Route 66, and that used to be an old, this portion of Route 66 it used to be an old Fort Smith wagon road that was then paved and added, lanes added to over the years to be a part of Route 66. But this 100th year celebration plan was upended by this weather event that took out and damaged and made unsafe a significant stretch of Route 66 that where it runs parallel to rail lines outside of Santa Fe. And part of this was because railroads were graded to higher ground to avoid flooding and tend to be on flat and stable terrain. And then, having the highway run right next to that, it basically creates a situation where the railroad's elevated platform, if you will, of dirt tends to sort of force water into something we'd know here in Utah as a borrow pit. And then after years of that washing and softening and hardening and washing and softening and hardening, sinkholes can emerge anyway. So the question was, would these repairs be done in place for this monumental 100th anniversary multiple state ride that was going to kick off the historic Route 66 100th year celebration in 2026? And good news for everyone on that front. Yes, they actually have discovered that the repairs will not require as much of a retooling and complete rebuilding as they thought, and that work will be able to begin this summer, and weather permitting, they'll have it done before the end of the transportation season, as it's known in New Mexico, which really only stops when temperatures get too low for that type of work. So they've got a longer transportation construction season than we do here in Utah. So it's anticipated the work will be done. There was concern it wouldn't even be able to begin this year, putting the whole 100th year celebration up in the air. But yeah, it's back on. And the reason I highlight this is there was an announcement today. The History Channel will be broadcasting starting Friday night and then repeating, I'm sure, ad nauseum on the History Channel. It's what they do. A documentary called Route 66, The Iconic Highway's Rise and Decline. And this apparently will track the construction of the earliest days of the construction of the interstate highway system itself. Again, the ideas for which really began in the 1920s, but really got underway as an interstate highway system, the I-15s and things like that we know today, in the mid-50s. This was a huge part of American history. It obviously forever changed the way Americans travel and vacation, but for commerce and things like that as well, this was huge. And so for a century now, Route 66 has loomed pretty large in American culture for good reason. It's also referred to as the Mother Road, America's Main Street. It's a famous stretch of road for bikers. There's even a cycling marathon that takes place on stretches of this. And it stretches, again, from Chicago to California, crossing 8 states while winding its way through, big cities and small towns at the same time. St. Louis, Tulsa. In fact, one of my favorite stretches of Route 66 that I visited was just outside of Tulsa. And it's fun because in town in Tulsa, where the stretch of highway comes through, the entire street is like a Route 66 gift shop and museum. There's even a cafe there where you can order Route 66 grits. I don't recommend them. Not a huge fan of grits in general, but those grits especially were special. Not a fan, but I had to order them when I saw them on the menu, right? And if you studied your history, by the mid-1950s, of course, you know that this was kind of the heyday. But in the mid-1950s, Route 66 the whole project was kind of set back. When President Eisenhower, Dwight D. Eisenhower, signed something called the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956, creating an interstate highway system and kind of rendering Route 66 pointless at that point. There was talk at the time of even segregating, taking out stretches of this highway to force traffic onto the interstate and reducing, some public safety concerns in parts of small towns where Route 66 came through. That thankfully wasn't done. They just improved safety with barriers and signage and things like that to reduce speed limits. But yeah, just a really fascinating history, and it's going to be spotlighted as part of a lead up to next year's 100th year-long celebration of Route 66 in again, 8 different states. By a documentary on the History Channel, which premieres Friday night, titled again, Route 66, The Iconic Highway's Rise and Decline. There's a lot to know about this. The University of New Mexico actually has a couple of, there are a couple of professors with the university who have written about Route 66. One book titled Route 66, A Companion, by Professor Emeritus David Dunaway. And his second book, Researching Route 66, a bibliographical guide. That book actually for a tip sheet, if you will, for other historians. But the Route 66, if you're a political junkie, is interesting because it has been a part of political science as well, and economic research, studies into the way, this connected, the first big interstate connected transportation route, how it changed economics, how it was the beginning of, being able to, for much cheaper prices, buy things in other states made, 7 states away, or in one state made 7 states away. Now that isn't new, but this was the first time it was really because of transportation options with this connected highway system. These 8 states began a little experiment in what today is kind of happening on the global scale with global trade. It's just a fascinating thing, but it changed economics in these 8 states and the country. It changed. It arguably was the only reason the interstate system ever happened, the success of Route 66. It was, of course, featured in Hollywood, big Hollywood productions. John Steinbeck's Grapes of Wrath, not as prominent in his book, Steinbeck's book, but in the film, it was huge. But Steinbeck does really talk at one point about Route 66 as it pertains to sort of the Dust Bowl of the 1930s, and the way people used this as a travel route, escaping the Dust Bowl to this promise of opportunity in California. And interestingly enough, something that is kind of lost in all this, between 1933 and 38. So here in Cache Valley, at the mouth of Blacksmith Fork Canyon, you'll see a little sign there on some land that is kind of managed and operated by Hiram City at this point, and it has been turned into a camping area and a frisbee golf course with a nice nature trail that goes through and goes way up into the canyon. But that was originally part of something called the Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC, and the Works Project as part of FDR's New Deal. And between 1938 and 33 and 38, laborers put to work by this Civilian Conservation Corps. This was basically a federally funded program that was meant to not only give people jobs and dig us out of the recession, but also to put civilians to work on much-needed infrastructure projects in the United States, things that had fallen behind not only during the recession, but for years before. And Route 66 employed, over a 5-year period, Route 66 itself employed nearly 3,300 people full-time. These jobs would often be 6 months to a year long, but they were full-time work. And they, again, for 5 years, 3,300 people got a job and were able to be a part of both digging the country out of the Great Depression with economic activity, because they'd have paychecks and then could go buy stuff, but also supporting their families, keeping food on the table. And it was all because this Route 66 had been built and then needed maintenance. So it ended up becoming a job creator in and of itself. And then again, during World War II, it played a role, Route 66, with some transportation of certain materials, munitions especially, and even personnel that needed to be transported on larger vehicles. And Route 66 became key in the World War II effort, predating the interstate system, of course, as a route between ports in California and the Midwest, where parts manufactured were transported to the California ports for shipping out, and industries in California were sending materials back east for production of these munitions. And that was really sort of what augured in the interstate trucking industry as well. It existed, but that was what really kind of sent it on steroids and made it a thing. The truck traffic did damage Route 66, and it was required repairs in 1945 at the end of the war, and at that point was done almost as though it was no longer necessary when those repairs happened, it was done almost as a nod to the importance and the history of this Route 66. And since then, it is used still for interstate commerce and travel and vacationing and things like that, but it is also a sort of a tourist destination in and of itself. And again, Route 66 will be celebrated next year long, in 8 different states as part of the 100th year anniversary of Route 66. But a little preview of that with the History Channel documentary coming this weekend, Route 66, The Iconic Highway's Rise and Decline. And I swear, that's the end of the History Channel nerd stuff. Back to regular programming here on For the People right after this.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
Our 100th spring is right around the corner. After a long winter's sleep, the open road is calling. And Murdoch Volkswagen can help you take those curves in style.
Right now, take up to $6,000 off a new Atlas or up to $5,500 off a new Atlas Cross Sport.
When you walk through our doors, you feel like family at Murdoch Volkswagen in Logan or online at murdochvw.com.
Call 888-391-6083 to see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 4/30/25.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Thursday on This Morning, America's First News. President Trump is at risk of losing support from voters on the economy. Hear what new polling tells us about the country's mood. Also, a family business that sells frozen fries in the Pacific Northwest could see the latest trade war further scare off remaining customers. And the debate over e-bikes in America's Amish communities. Thursday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
For 248 years, proud patriots have defended our freedom as American soldiers. One of the best ways to honor their service is through the Army Historical Foundation's Registry of the American Soldier. Open to all Army veterans, this free registry allows veterans or a loved one on their behalf to create a permanent public record of their service. No soldier's story should be forgotten. Learn more at armyhistory.org. That's armyhistory.org. Sponsored by Army Historical Foundation, Inc.
That's it for hour one of today's show, but hope you'll stick around. Hour two, a big accreditation announcement for USU. Well, spoiler alert, the veterinary school will be underway. What this means for Utah and the nation, really. How the Cash Employment Training Center plans to use a significant donation from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from their Giving Machine tour that was stationed here in Cache Valley for a few weeks last year. What they plan to do with it. The very important work of the center. And Governor Cox with an update on his trip to Canada. Also, next hour, Utah paying a Nevada company a contract of $1.7 million a year to screen prison email. And it looks like Utah has been getting scammed and for quite some time. The details on that story and more coming up in hour two of today's show right after this here on KVNU Logan.
Know about it. Talk about it.
This nation belongs to all of us.
News Talk KVNU Logan.